It was one of those heavy, gray afternoons in a small town just outside Nashville, the kind where the clouds hang low and the air smells like rain that can't quite decide if it wants to fall. The roads were quiet, save for the occasional pickup truck rumbling by and the distant hum of cicadas. At the corner of Maple and 3rd sat Mason's Auto Repair, a modest one-man garage run by a man named Eli Mason. Eli was a humble mechanic in his late 30s, with oil-stained hands and kind eyes that had seen their fair share of hard times. Business wasn't exactly booming, and most weeks Eli barely scraped enough to cover rent on both the garage and the small apartment above it. But what he lacked in wealth, he made up for in heart. Eli wasn't the kind of man to chase after riches or status. He believed in two things: fixing what's broken and treating people right. That afternoon, as Eli wiped the sweat from his brow and was about to close up shop, a sleek, midnight blue sports car, clearly not from around there, rolled to a sputtering stop right in front of his garage. The contrast was almost comical, like a diamond landing in a mud puddle. Out stepped a young woman, no older than 30. She wore worn jeans, a simple white t-shirt, and aviator sunglasses. Despite the casual look, there was something about her, a quiet confidence, a grace that made her stand out. "Car trouble?" Eli called, grabbing a rag to wipe his hands. "Yeah," she sighed, brushing a lock of chestnut hair from her face. "I think it's the engine, or maybe the radiator. Honestly, I don't know much about cars." "No worries," Eli smiled. "You came to the right place." What neither of them knew was that the woman, Amelia Clark, was no ordinary traveler. She was a billionaire heiress, the CEO of a tech empire, and listed on Forbes' under 40 list. But she was also deeply disillusioned. Years of betrayal and people pretending to care for the sake of her wealth had left her searching for something real. Tired of the glitzy parties and hollow conversations, she'd been driving across small towns under a fake name, hoping to find a little humanity. Eli popped the hood, whistling low. "Looks like your water pump's shot. Could have overheated your engine if you kept going. Lucky you stopped here." Amelia bit her lip. "Is it fixable?" "I can patch you up," he said, "but the part won't get here till morning. You're welcome to wait inside." "Not much, but there's fresh coffee and an old radio that only plays country classics." Most folks in Amelia's world would have found the idea laughable, but she felt an odd warmth in the offer. "I'd like that," she said softly. As evening settled, the two talked over instant coffee and paper cups. Amelia introduced herself simply as Amy. They spoke about life, about dreams left behind, about Eli's late father who taught him everything he knew, and about the town that seemed forgotten by time. There was no pretense, no hidden agenda. Eli told her how he once dreamed of opening a bigger shop, maybe even a community garage to help folks who couldn't afford repairs. But times got hard after his dad passed, and he'd given up on the dream. Still, he fixed cars for people who couldn't pay when he could, trusting that kindness would come back around someday. Amelia listened, moved by his sincerity. No one had spoken to her like this in years, as a person, not a title. Later that night, as a storm rolled in, Amelia offered to pay extra for the trouble she caused. Eli shook his head. "You don't charge people more just because they're in a bad spot. I'll fix it for what it costs me, no more." She pressed. "But you could use the money." He shrugged. "Sure, but I need to be able to look in the mirror in the morning." That simple sentence landed heavier than any speech. When morning came, Eli had the car running good as new. Amelia thanked him, hesitant to leave. Before she drove off, she scribbled something on a scrap of paper and slipped it onto his workbench. A week passed, then another. Eli went on about his days, still scraping by, never knowing he was about to be blindsided. One morning, a sleek black sedan pulled up to the garage. Out stepped a sharply dressed man holding an envelope. "You Eli Mason?" he asked. "Yeah." The man handed over the envelope and left without a word. Inside was a letter written on elegant stationery. "Dear Eli, in a world where so many chase profit over people, your kindness reminded me that decency still exists. What you didn't know is that I wasn't just a stranded traveler. My name is Amelia Clark. I own Clark Industries. And because of you, I've decided to fund a project you once spoke about, a community garage, free for those in need, with you as its head. A deposit has already been made to secure the building. Details to follow. Thank you for being the kind of person this world needs. Amelia." Attached was a check large enough to not only buy the garage but expand it twice over. Eli stood there for a long moment, staring at the letter, the reality sinking in. He wasn't a wealthy man, but he was, in that moment, the richest person alive. Word spread through town. And when the new Mason Community Garage opened months later, it wasn't just a place for repairs, it was a sanctuary. A spot where folks in trouble could get a fair deal, a cup of coffee, and a little hope. Eli never changed. Still wiped his hands with old rags. Still undercharged old Miss Barker for her clunky station wagon. And once in a while, when a sleek, midnight blue sports car passed through town, he'd smile, knowing some debts are repaid in far better ways than money. The kindness of one honest man had quietly changed a life. And, in turn, a life had changed a town. Final thought. It doesn't take millions to make a difference. Sometimes, all it takes is kindness without expectation. And you never know, the heart you touch might just be the one with the power to touch thousands more.